So here I am with my happy family in California.
Something that we cannot scientifically test, thank goodness, because the weapon systems are so relationship to universe. We may be speciating in universe and coming to a new level of consciousness, to the broader evolution of universal consciousness, accepting a priori mystery in the end. But that's the challenge that confronts us, and we don't hear that kind of talk anywhere. It's all caught up within a political dialectic.
But Webster, you know, when you said history is a nightmare from which I'm attempting to wake up, you've said that many times, and a lot of your viewers don't even listen anymore. But Nico, I could feel he sort of came alive when you said that, and then he. But then he followed and said that the digital age, we don't even know our history. Can you explain that,
right,
Nico?
That's
That
I'm
excited
saying,
me.
we already dictated about historians since decades. They dictated actually. You know what? The biggest problem.
The thing that will bring us into a new relationship.
What is the analysis of history?
The
we
analysis.
never rejected historians. Actually, there's only one phenomena where historians got opposed, and that's the Holocaust. So that's the only controversy where people think, oh, we have to oppose that kind of historically analyzed, but nothing else. So it is
Just a second. We have to oppose the analysis of the Holocaust?
Yeah, and don't fall into the trap now to talk about this again, because that's exactly what people want. They're creating already historical context for us, and they have already the false opposition laid out in advance. So
I just don't understand, that's all.
Well, that's how historical research and analysis works. The people controlling history are the same people who link to the historians. They also link to the futurists. This is all nonsense. It's all a hoax. These people are not analyzing society in an appropriate way.
Well,
These people are militarists who are creating false opposition.
That's true. We don't have leaders that are worthy of being followed in the political realm or in any of the major people that we call our leaders. We look, and who's falling down on the job are not the politicals or the business leaders, it's the intellectuals.
But
that are not coming
right,
up.
and I think that the intellectuals are the bigger traitors since 9/11. That the stupid politicians who are the puppets anyway. No, the intellectual is the individual who's irresponsible. That's why I'm more mad at the anti-war movement, at the lefty establishment, maybe even the righty establishment. It's like the intellectual are the ones who are selling out since 9/11. Where are the musicians? Where are the artists?
Falling down on the job of providing an
it's like they're like the sheep. It's like the sheeple. The sheeple.
Realities that exist short of spirituality.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. The spirituality.
Where's Voltaire? Where are the real people who are presenting an alternative that is relevant to what is needed to stave off species lethal destruction of this?
But Harold, that's exactly the Fruit Loop. That's exactly the Fruit Loop society created for us. The so-called spirituality is itself a cult. It is organized religion. It's organized intellectual thinking.
A little easy on ourselves, Nico. We've been here 200,000 years as a species, okay? We've lived in a condition. The condition has been fundamentally altered by our technological extension of consciousness and the ability to have ability to deal with things. So it's only been, I don't think we crossed the line where there were more haves than have-nots in terms of potentiality until about the year 1970. About the same time, the weapon systems were species lethal in their capability. So it's only about 37 years that we've been living in an altered ontologic reality that is never recognized. It won't be recognized by your business leaders, your political leaders. It is not recognized sufficiently by the intellectual community as a positively seen alternative understanding of reality and the potentiality, perhaps, for a liberating context from the system in which we've all been living for 200,000 years. Be a little easy on ourselves.
Be a little easy, Harold. Sorry, it's not easy. It's simple.
Equilibrium in evolutionary terms.
Yeah, but you don't understand, Harold. People like lies. People like secrets. They think that makes them more special. It's like the people like these kind of obscurities, bizarre things in their life, because otherwise it would become too boring in their fucking own hypocrisy around themselves. These are the people who know, oh, with 25 I have to marry, with 38 I have to have my own house, with 50 I have to do this and that. These are all established idiotic gimmicks.
We're in agreement on that.
Well, and that's why the lefties are the biggest losers, because they laid it all out for them. They laid out all
I say they are
phony,
not radical enough. And to be really radical, you have to be encompassing.
Even the word radicalism is already a trap. By just pretending that a very simple party thought is something radical, while it is in reality very simple, is already the trap they're designing for us. They're calling it radical to discredit the simplicity of it. And simplicity of facts. Next week is a conference in DC. There are 40 companies involved. Again, the same companies I'm laying out since 3-4 years. These people can be traced back easily. It's not a secret society. It's a company. It is names attached to it. There is no Illuminati. There is no stupid New World Order. I can give you names and the telephone numbers. Call up Dennis Muhlenberg right now on Boeing and ask him about direct energy weapons. And then figure how that is. Simplicity instead of sophisticated, sophisticated
Right.
PBS discussions funded by the Ford Foundation. Harold, make it more simple. Tell the people to do something.
No, Harold, you are making it simple, and I want to say, just like you're saying to Nico, be easy
So
on.
it's great to talk to you again, brother. I remember a meeting about 5 years ago where we talked along these same lines. And I think you're really onto something, and I think you're absolutely right in terms of the inadequacy of seeing things in what the peace term, because they don't have an alternative. It's going to come around to new economic. How do you deal with a situation of sufficiency or non-scarcity within a context where all our institutions were predicated upon that assumption as the way the universe is structured, and there's been a qualitative transformation? How do you deal with that? What are the economics of that? What are the geopolitical consequences of that? If you have a situation where there is enough, you've got a fundamentally different situation than the one that we've inherited out of history. That's the point I make.
Yeah, well, I actually
do you think we are going to bomb Iran?
No.
They seem to be gearing up for.
You know,
do you think it's leading toward a possible conflagration, a black swan, as Talib would call it now?
First of all, I don't know what
these are not your normal times.
Well, first of all, I don't know what a black swan is.
We've been gestating for 200,000 years, and we're coming into a new relationship, possibly of a liberated humanity within an ecological context.
Well, Harold, I have a different take.
The resonating sense accommodate us to universe at a level transcendent to what we've been through 200,000 years of human history. And we're coming to a time that we may realize that, or as Bucky Fuller said, it'll be touch and go right up to the final minute if we come up with an alternative to species lethal suicide.
Yeah, we need more intelligent humor again. We need more intelligent humor. People who actually really laugh about something very, very simple, like Monty Python. I think these were the last good comedians
Monty
we had.
Python. Yesterday we were talking about the organ transplants that they.
That was funny.
You were hilarious.
They did.
You were.
They had to take the liver from somebody because he had signed a contract. They came in and took the liver
that's
when he
exactly
was.
what I'm saying.
That actually happens. They take.
But this is exactly.
Humor is really important.
Right, but
and we got to do it. But what we got to keep an opening on is there are no enemies.
Well, that's.
There are no enemies in this context, but there is, except ignorance of the pattern required by universe if we are to make this gigantic transformation in the evolution of consciousness itself.
Well, on that level, ignorance is the biggest enemy, because
Yes,
ignorance
ignorance
creates
is the
all
only
these
enemy.
false enemies like that there is allegedly Al-Qaeda, there's allegedly a kind of stupid war on terror, there was allegedly a threat from communism, blah, 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 blah.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you completely. But those are all, be a little easy. We've been caught up.
Harold.
No, I'm not easy because I want to go back to party life, Harold. I don't want to fuck my own train set for the rest of my life. Actually,
eventually gets down, if you don't say the right thing, your grant's cut off, or your means of having food is cut off, and they got you by the short hairs, as they say. So that's a system. We need to have an economic system, and I think it would be public sector and private sector, but you got to spread ownership to
you're not on a tangent, not by any means.
That would be introducing a population that is liberated to do what they want to do, rather than what a system says. If you don't do what we tell you to do, you're going to starve. And that's what they've been doing. The leaders have been doing throughout all of human history. It's outdated. They're going to have to let the people be free, and then they can do things like further down the rabbit hole.
But Harold,
whatever they're interested in.
but Harold, where does that come from? Is this going to be a gift bestowed by the rich to the poor to have the leisure to wake up and see, or do the poor somehow in between the grind and the worry sort of wake up and figure it out? Maybe the change happens as a function of figuring it out, and that the rich, too are just as lacking in freedom, because like what Webster Tarpley said, all economic systems, almost all of them, is apology for the rich. They're just apologists. Yeah. And I know that you and he agreed on that, but then there wasn't an agreement. I'm not sure why. But I do see what you mean, that for example, he embraces 9/11 truth as the most powerful, effective way to really strike most deeply at the problem, and yet it doesn't seem as though the problem comes from the rich and the few.
We're not on the stream, but I want to get this conversation.
No,
So just put the mics on.
No.
Just put the mics on.
We're gonna yeah, we gotta go. My host, you can't impose on my host.
This is classic
Oh,
Tarpley.
it's
This is
just
gold. This is
Read his book.
no. This is This is the man. This is
We'll
the
do it. You gotta bear with me. I'm a little bit tired now, and
Okay.
also it's with Harold. It's a fight to get a word in.
I know. You see me threatening him. I was threatening him.
Can't get a
I'm
word
suddenly
in.
getting ready to throw the knife.
Couldn't get a
Come
word
down
in.
tomorrow or Sunday.
I really want
Well,
to
he's on tomorrow.
We have Webster
But the
Tarpley.
traditional things. Surviving the Cataclysm. It's only available through my website. But you dismiss the normal thinking of economics. Anglo-American, monetarist, garbage. Yeah, that's abnormal. That's perverted. No, the economics professor, you studied that, right? And all of that, like it would be like... I'd sooner die. Ricardo, right? By the way, Marx, all of these people... Keynes. Wait a minute. Marx, oh God. Keynes. You know what a lot of these are? Do you ever hear of Gian Maria Ortes? Yes. Venetian? No. Now there's a real... That's Venetian. The source. Basically, Mill, Bentham, and quite a few others copy from Gian Maria Ortes. Venetian. Complete degenerate. Yeah. A complete degenerate. A Venetian degenerate. That was the worst kind. Okay. But you see, you've got this academic incrustation of all these bankrupt, the Chicago boys, the Mr. Nixon said we're all Keynesian now, 1972. No, Roosevelt was not a Keynesian. He was not. Who was he? Who was advising him? No, he did it all himself. And it was well, who was the theoretical one who informed Roosevelt? Unfortunately, there's not. It would be better if there were. Yeah, but who was? Who was the theoretical thing that he took from? Largely, I would say that, as I've told you just now, it is the populists of the 1890s, the Omaha Convention of the Populist Party, the notion of a parity price. That's absolutely fundamental. Okay? And I think, Harry Hopkins is an important source. Well, he was an advisor, but I mean, as far as theoretical economics, all the rest of the world... You have to realize... All the rest of the world was thinking... I don't know how to explain this to you, but you have to realize that the economics profession is the most corrupt. I agree with you. Because it is pure apologetic for the existing order. In other words, you have to think of the whole economics profession, be it Friedman, Hayek, this awful Schumpeter, this idiot. Agree with you. They're essentially all a cheering section saying, long live the rich, long live the rich. And behind it all is the labor theory of value that informs all of them. And it's not a theory. That's the idea that has to be attacked. It's wrong. The labor theory of value. It is a commitment to the Anglo-American finance oligarchy and whatever they want. No, theory of value. Wrong. It's not based on a theory. And that's the problem you had before with the Thomas Kuhn. It's not a theory. It's a political conflict. In other words, what Fetzer, I would think, ought to look at is when you have the battle of epistemology, of scientists, right? You have Galileo, promoted by the Venetians, against the real scientist, who is Kepler. Kepler is your man. Galileo is a diversion. Similarly,
And that's Paolo Sarpi. That's,
the dude.
you gotta be quiet till we get to the end of the sentence. We have Sarpi backing Galileo against Kepler.
Yeah.
Then, 100 years later, under the influence of the Antonio Conti of Venice, they back Newton against the real scientist, who is Leibniz.
Mm-hmm.
So these are political struggles, and it's the faction fight of these different groups to see whose worldview wins out. And the oligarchs have their guy, and our side has our guy. And our guys were Kepler and Leibniz.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Talking about atomic bonding. Are you optimistic, pessimistic for the human prospect?
I go with Gramsci.
Where
What's
does
that quick
Gramsci-
quote?
What would Gramsci
I told you
say?
before, you gotta listen. Gramsci. I proceed with the pessimism of the intelligence and the optimism of the will. Figure that out.
Well, that, I don't know. The pessimism of
The pessimism of the intelligence means, if you want, I could prove to you that the world is gone, but I don't choose to act on that. I act on the other side, right? I'm trying to stop it. I'm trying to save it.
Yeah, we're in the same ballpark there, because I think...
Pessimism
What
of
do
the
you do?
intelligence and the
Don't
optimism
touch
of
anything,
the
Harold.
will.
Don't you disconnect this
Yes,
to the
but
heat?
don't tell anything, Harold. Don't touch it, Harold. It's very intense. Harold.
Oh, okay.
We're you know.
Well, it's hot. You turn it off.
Take your
We
time.
need to, yeah, relax. Why don't you give him some more wine, please? Well,
Got
relax.
any,
I'm gonna get you
got any
another.
hors d'oeuvre? Got any cheese or anything? A little snack?
We're pretty poor in New York. Seriously, it's been rough here. It's been rough.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's been rough. Oh, wait, give him some more wine.
Yeah, the wine is good, but we gotta get a little bit of something on the eating side, you know?
We'll have Paula.
What happened to Paula Glory?
Paula stepped out. She'll be back shortly.
But she's probably
Can we
competing
can
with
we
a
go
local
up?
restaurant or something. No. He doesn't want to do that. We want to go home.
Oh,
soon.
we're gonna head
we want to
home
get
and have a
something
meal.
right
Do you
here.
have a
is what we want.
stapler?
Yeah.
Does she have a
Oh,
stapler?
what do I find? Thank you. Here
There
it
you
is.
go. There's some steak. There you go.
Okay, relax, Webster. Sit down on the couch and relax.
Here we go. Just
Let me freshen you up with
Something in my stomach.
some more vibration.
Does she have a stapler? Do you know?
I don't think so.
Uh-huh. Everybody has a stapler. Everybody has to have a stapler. I don't see one. Well, you may not be interested, but I would staple that. I would give you this if
Sure.
you want.
I'm
This
interested.
is just me, and I'm coming from a different place. I'm coming from Fuller, Buckminster Fuller, Marshall McLuhan, Jardine, and so forth. And if you want it, but I should staple it. If I have a staple, you can have it. Cause
No, we'll staple it at home.
well, yeah, but it's got to be kept like that, see, because it's in a certain order. You see? And so that's just for whatever it's worth. It's very small.
I'm amazed that Buckminster Fuller has so many followers.
Buckminster Fuller is the greatest mind in the history of humanity. And he's really serious. He's not all political at all. He's not got anything to do with politics. It's all with
And that makes him serious?
I beg your pardon?
That makes him serious?
I think politics is a diversion from the larger question of the evolution of consciousness. Yeah. Politics is just a part
No.
of an
Go sit
overall.
down here.
Enough.
All right.
This is prime
I'm
It's
sorry.
not prime.
I don't want
Webster
to.
Tarpley. I mean, this is
Turn
what
it
I've
off.
dreamed about.
Turn it
No,
off.
he
We're gonna
doesn't
hit
want
the
to
road.
hear anything else because he's wrapped
I'm
up.
tired now. I want to eat and have something to
Yes,
drink and then go home.
good.
Please turn it
Don't
off.
touch anything, Harold.
So much power and ownership and leisure, just because they're the recipients of 30,000 shoes being made and they didn't lift a finger, still, I don't think the point is to have, like my brother said, the objective is to not work.
Your brother says that?
Yeah, I'm going
Well,
to,
I think that's wonderful, but I think it's really important to
but he,
have a distinction between a job and work.
right.
Somebody at work, a painter, I've got a lot of friends of mine are artists, and I've known my friend Alex. He was at the easel painting.
And I think Woodrow Wilson, too, they say that the last years in office, he took to his bed for a few months because when he saw the devastation of World War I, he realized it was intimately related to creating the Federal Reserve, because as soon as these people who were the shareholders of the Federal Reserve had the ability to essentially sell money, one really great way to lend money then to a country that had been debt-free until then was to start a war. And it's a known thing. They call them merchants of death. Merchants of death. And Molly's father uses the term too. The DuPonts, they came to this country from France and they got into gunpowder. But what Harold Channer points out, we shouldn't be ashamed of these topics, no matter what position we're in. You know, if you want to be liberal about it or if you want to be conservative, either way, what he's saying is that we're standing at a qualitative, transformational possibility where we can take that excitement of the F-16s and say, we have power. And then how are we going to use the power? Because we could destroy ourselves. Not with F-16s. F-16s will not destroy the planet.
No.
But we have other things that will.
Negativity. It's just people's mindsets. Sure, and that's what the F-16s are giving you, a mindset.
Not necessarily negative.
No, positive, that we're the greatest country in the world and we're going to defend it and we're going to defend all the people that are on board with us and that believe in our way of governing. And I don't know. I mean, and probably the biggest thing is that the mind says, like, oh, we're happy to pay taxes. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep working harder to buy more F-16s and more cars to drive and more SUVs so we can buy more gas and start more. It's just, let's work harder. And this is a country where I think our parents came over to, I don't think they would admit this, but to work less, to enjoy the world, to be happier. Because I think who enjoys working at a job they don't like? And who enjoys working at a job they don't like just for money? Well, you know, we get to buy the things and that's what makes it tolerable. And one of the things we buy are F-16s, and we work so hard, now we get to see them vibrate our souls as they go by and make these big, you know, displays. It's entertainment.
But it's more than entertainment. You say it's inspirational.
For a while, but I think it's like buying clothes. I mean, in a couple of weeks you lose that inspiration, so that's why they have it every year, the Fleet Week, and they bring the Navy out with all its power and to show people, well, you're on a winning team, you're not a loser, and your taxes is going to a winning government, and it's, you know, it's.
Oh, but she's saying you need shows every week?
We don't have one. It's enslaved to outdated institutions, in my humble opinion. There has to be a communication of that idea, and then the inklings to the ways in which we could set things up differently, politically, economically, sociologically, to have a liberated humanity where everybody in that orchestra would be playing their own instrument to their full maximum capability. And if we get to that, we may then have a resonancy that will interaccommodate us to universe that we passed the test. And it looks like we're not getting very much leadership in that direction. And probably we're going to entropy and join entropy and destroy humanity because we're sticking to old, outdated ideas that have been transcended by the zeitgeist or by the evolution of broader patterns of consciousness. And what we look forward to is like streaming down the rabbit hole.
But even that, Harold, if I really think carefully about it, where did I get the energy to do this? Because you do need power. Everybody needs power. And the gripe always is that the poor people don't have enough power, and yet Webster Tarpley was telling me his experience in the housing courts, that it's horrific how many people are losing their houses and how scary it is. And at the same time, Harold, there are people who are getting so much welfare, they're on the dole, and they spiral down, and they're not necessarily becoming like your artists that you're talking about, where they don't need to be told what to do.
Well, they don't get the dole very much. They take it away. Mostly they will take away from those. I mean, there's some things, one from like Franklin Roosevelt, thank God for, and the New Deal and these kind of things, and they get some institutions in place, but you'll notice that they're attacking all of those institutions where somebody gets something for nothing. It's okay for the capitalists to get something for nothing. They get richer as they sleep. But we can't have that happen to the people, because the people have to be ordered by those who own the capital, and if you don't, you're going to have anarchy, and it's going to be a terrible disaster, and the people
put it this way. If you're talking about a freedom, even a king, I would think would get to a certain point in his evolution where he wants to be free of the identity of him as the owner and the final, person to make the judgment calls. In other words, I know I'll talk about my experience with Vedic and Indian knowledge. In their literature, periodically, you have stories of great kings who would totally walk away from their kingdoms to seek enlightenment. And if you understand the responsibility of a king, let's say he was a good king, not somebody who was just cruel and he liked to make people jump when he said jump, but that someone who said, I want to know who I am more than this ownership, because Kelso is talking not about labor-based wealth, but about ownership. I'm saying, is there a place beyond ownership? That if you, like say, I have a nice apartment in Gramercy Park, and I definitely feel the energy there. I feel like I'm more creative in that area. But at the same time, I also have a sense that I'm more than my apartment. You know what I'm saying? I'm more than the owner. I'm more than the ownership of this, and I may never know until I test that. In which case, I'm saying, could we not, as the less powerful, entice those with more power to take a challenge, to go to a new party? And likewise, can we, you and me, Harold, as very powerful people,